When people play violent video games that glorify the horrors of gun violence, their minds are altered into a twisted, desensitized, and almost evil state. John Murray, a developmental psychologist at Kansas State University, recently published a study on violent video games. Now, the study involved having people play violent video games while under an MRI machine. The players' brains were monitored during gameplay. Now, during the most violent parts of the game, such as killing, the MRI revealed a change in the brain's anterior cingulate cortex. Now, this is the part of the brain that deals with the mind's separation of judgment versus emotion. Now, according to Murray, this illustrated that the mind was becoming desensitized to extreme violence as a result of the game. Video games with extreme violence twist the human mind by bringing fun to murder. Now, one specific way that these games do this is through the use of achievement points. The player is rewarded with points for various actions throughout the game. According to Xbox.com, in Grand Theft Auto 4, which is perhaps the most famous game glorifying gun violence of all time, players receive an achievement for the following: killing 5 people, killing 20 people, and planting a bomb. Now, these are all horrible acts. However, upon receiving achievements for these acts, the players are desensitized to the violence behind the acts and contrastingly associate them with a feeling of happiness. Now, clearly, these games distort the mind. Another way that these games distort the mind is by causing players to become more aggressive. On February 12, 2013, the New York Times published an article, and it highlighted an Iowa State University study which proved that there was a causation between violent video games and increased aggression. By twisting the mind, these games have made people more prone to violence. Now, in addition, they've also made people terrifyingly better at committing acts of violence. On December 1st, 1997, a 14-year-old in Kentucky fired shots into a prayer group. He fired 8 shots into the crowd and struck 8 targets. He had never ever used a gun in his entire life. In a police study, police officers shot at targets from 23 feet away and finished with a 13% accuracy rating. The boy had an accuracy rating of 100%. Dave Grossman, a military psychologist and retired Army Ranger, commented on the event, and he said that there has never been a shooting feat of such in military history. He continued to say that the child stood still and was unwavering in his spree, and that these are characteristics that the boy could have only learned from a video game. Continuing, the University of Minnesota was recently chartered $207 million to develop a video game system to train the military officers to make them better shooters. If the United States military, the best and most dangerous military in the entire world, is using these violent video games to become more deadly, why are we allowing them to be sold to everyday citizens? Now, what happens when we sell them to everyday citizens? Well, every so often, one of these citizens who plays these games and has his emotions twisted, becomes desensitized to violence, becomes incredibly more aggressive, and an expert shooter as a result of playing these games, well, he decides to use his video game-honed shooting skills to kill people in real life. And that brings us to Adam Lanza, and how he was able to kill 27 people, mostly young children, when he shot up an elementary school in Newtown, Connecticut in December. Violent video games that glorify gun violence are creating potential Adam Lanzas every day. Therefore, my proposed ban is to ban violent video games which glorify gun violence by rewarding players with achievement points and other forms of reward, such as PlayStation 3's trophies for committing acts of murder and extreme gun violence.